See how that's moving here? I cut this cherry out of old side wood for like a practice side set that I got from one of the luthier houses. See that? And what happened is it was slightly cut because I didn't have enough to get it on to cut the piece of wood I used for this out on a flat surface. There was a curve, very slight, but enough that when I went to glue this into the channel, this is proud. So what I will have to do, I tried to glue it down with super glue and get it to stay, but it's not going to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to excavate this channel with a chisel, and I'm going to cut another. I have some maple that I'm going to use to try to cut. I'll have to thickness it first. Then we're going to cut another one to lay in here. Sooner or later, we will get a rosette on this guitar one way or the other. I think that I've said, but if I haven't, this is the 6th try. It doesn't matter. The point of it is, dude, whatever it takes. The goal here is to excavate the wood out of this channel and try not to damage this periphery, because what I want to do is remove this and try to replace it. Hopefully I can lay a piece right in there without too much difficulty, or, you know, like they would say, no muss, no fuss kind of deal. One of the things that I would mention, and it's not, let me see if I can say this the right way. You will see a lot of guitar building channels here on YouTube. Some of them are amateur like me, and some of them are pro, but you won't see a lot of them posting things like this. In other words, they're mistakes. First of all, most people don't like to show their mistakes. That's a natural kind of thing. But also, when you start looking at things like, you know, the channels that are on here with the professional luthiers, they're using YouTube as a way to see, I gotta be careful, as a way to drum up their business, or support their business, or sell their instruments. You know, people don't want to see them make mistakes. They have this idea, you know, of the old luthier that's a master of his craft and never makes a mistake, and all of that. And that's in a lot of ways when you're buying a custom guitar or a handmade guitar from a small shop. This is pretty much, that's pretty much part of what people are buying, in my opinion, or attempting to buy, or however you want to say it. So you don't see them posting stuff like that. And like I said, I'm not, or I meant to say, if I didn't, I'm saying it now. I'm not suggesting, or even a moment, that people like that are being untruthful or hiding anything or anything. Look, if I was selling my guitars, you might not see that either. You know, when you're going to sell something, you want to advertise it in the best possible light. But this channel was started as just a hand tool woodworking channel, and it morphed into at least adding the building of guitars. I don't know about full building of guitars. I don't know if I can maintain that or not. But the whole idea was that you would come along with me as I learn, because I really am, you know, I haven't been doing hand tool work for very long at all, and the whole idea was to encourage that, so that other people might pick up hand tools and start building with them. And I really think that it's important with anything, but particularly with hand tools, that it's understood that, you know, if this is not a machine, it's two hands. And I'm never going to be absolutely perfect in anything that I do. And in my opinion, mistakes, in my opinion, mistakes are just as, or maybe even more important than mistakes are as important, or maybe even more important than when you get it right. It's important to understand that you are going to make mistakes. The idea, the hope, the desire is that when you do make these mistakes, that you will make, okay, you don't quit. You don't allow yourself to quit. You don't allow yourself, i.e., to be beaten. It has been my experience most times that one of the biggest factors that determines whether or not you're successful in pretty much anything is going to be what happens when a mistake is made. That's pretty much where the rubber hits the road. Is what do I do now? And with this guitar particularly, but now this is going to apply to any guitar that I make from now on. But with this guitar, with the woods that I have here, this is for me, probably a once in a lifetime opportunity to build with this quality woods. Now, understand, the woods that I used on that first guitar, there's nothing wrong with them. And the majority of guitars that you would buy would be made of similar wood. And there have been some fantastic guitars made out of that sort of basic tone wood. It's just that the quality of this wood is something that, to my inexperienced hands and eyes, would pretty much equal sort of a master grade type of wood for me. And I want this thing to be as beautiful as I can make it. You know, it's not that I wouldn't do my very best to build the finest of whatever it is that I'm building, that I could. But like the first acoustic, the one that I just built, okay, on this channel, that was my very first acoustic guitar that I ever built. There is a learning curve that comes with building anything. The first one is not ever going to be the very best. with a first, what you're doing is you're learning how it goes together. And there comes a point where you realize that, look, I need to finish the process and move on. To the next go round, take what it is that I've learned and apply it. Gotta be careful with that. I'll have to come back in and maybe stabilize some of that with super glue. I don't know. I've got a feeling that once I replace this center rosette, that a lot that will stabilize just by having that piece of wood in the center. I would also say, doing work like this, you really need some kind of magnifying set. This is a really cheap one I bought 10 or 15 years ago at a local flea market for like $8. You can get some really nice, I'd love to have like one of the Optivisors. They're like $70, something like that. These work just fine, but you really need magnification when working on guitars, and whatever you can find, whatever you can afford. That's one of the other things you see on these luthier sites and other places, you know, where they say, well, you need this $100 tool or this $200 tool, or this, like there's a rosette circle cutter hand, to do it by hand like I do. They want like $108, 100 and so many odd cents for it. I can't afford that, and I never will probably. I made a circle cutter. Now I had to work on the design a bit because it was slipping and things like that, but I believe that I have fixed that. But the thing with it is, before these big luthier houses came out and started making tools like that, years before anybody ever put a sign outside that said LMI or Stuart McDonald or any of that, there were people building guitars. And they were making their own tools that did these things. I'm not knocking them. You have to understand, if you pay attention to what I'm saying, a lot of times you can begin to think, well, you know, that I'm slamming these people, or I'm slamming this company, or something like that. And I'm seriously not. Okay, I'd love to have that circle cutter from LMI. It's a really well designed tool. What's not to like about that? Okay, but one of the other things that I've learned, because I generally have a limited or a non-existent budget to do anything that I want to do. That's just the way it is. Not complaining. Okay? But if I had paid attention to the people that told me, well, you can't do that. You have to have this, and you have to have that. Well, no, you don't. Okay? What you have to have is an open mind, a mental ability to say, well, to look at something like, for example, cutting out this rosette, and go, well, is there any other way to do that? Can I do it this way? See, that's where you got to get, is you got to understand that, you know, men were doing things like this. Mankind was doing things like this a very long time ago. If you look at some of the stuff that the ancient civilizations were doing, you know, and one of the most obvious is Egypt, the Egyptians, and stuff like that. So you look at what they were doing, and they didn't have what we had, okay? Men who in ancient times, in the case of Egypt particularly, but most of those kind of civilizations, they were tasked with something a king, a pharaoh, a queen, someone who had the authority of life and death over them, said, make this. And they understood, look, this is my life I'm talking about. This person has power over my life and death. Literally, I need to figure out how to make that for them. Or you had men who just like we do now, who dreamed, can I do this? I want to do this. How do I do this? And they found a way. And they didn't need all the technology and stuff that we take for granted today. What they had was a brain and a desire, and they figured out how to do it. That's dug out. And next what we will do is make an inlay, and I probably won't show you that process. I'll just show you either fitting it into the channel or when it's already done.